Esteemed participants honoring this conference by coming from all around the world, dear friends, eminent personalities have become the beacon of dark times. I'd like to take this opportunity here before you to greet everyone who has contributed to this conference organized jointly by the Human Rights Foundation and the Oslo Freedom Forum. I would also like to thank all those who took part in it, including the unsung heroes. I am really happy that you've included me and in my person the reality of my people in such a comprehensive and high-caliber conference. I would therefore firstly thank you for that. I have certainly experienced the dark hours of suspicion and the lonely days of the spirit. So it was difficult for me to decide on which one to give you an account of. Which one should I start with, I wonder? There were moments when my friends in the same struggle with me were murdered right next to me. There were other moments we had to open the graves of our friends. And look for the parts of a body to make the whole. There were times when the blood of tiny children spilled into my palms. Sometimes, thanks to those split-second intuitive feelings signaling imminent danger, I escaped death. But I did not pity myself for my pain and suffering. I condemned all alternatives other than enduring, resisting and struggling. What remained were only my inexhaustible hopes, my love for the humankind, my resistance to cruelty, my patience against pain, and my belief in freedom. So, as much as I am able to, I will try to tell you about some incidents that took place during that time frame, and my hopes that were just too big for my prison cell. Date 26th of July, 1988. Place Diyarbakır Police Directorate, Rapid Reaction Force cells. The cell I was locked up in was less than 1 square meter. Despite my diminutive body, I was not able to fit in it, although I was bent over. It had no windows. I could not tell whether it was day or night. It was like hell in the scorching heat of July. I was trying to breathe with some unfathomable effort, but to no avail. I just couldn't do it. I had to make do with what I got with my hopes in my cell that was like a vertical coffin. I had no other choice. Heart-rending screams and wailings came from the adjoining cells. At one point, I made my canvas shoes into a pillow and wrapped my long skirt around me meaninglessly and then tried to sleep. I thought about the past and what was soon to happen to me, one by one. Is there any other calamity that has left that humankind has not suffered from fascism yet? No matter what the name of the regime was, hadn't fascism, wearing different cloaks, devoured millions of people savagely? And this time around, its arms are in Kurdistan, in Turkey. Fascism had also skillfully infiltrated into the ideological structure of the Republic of Turkey, whose constitutional designation was a democratic state of law. Although fascism seemed dormant, it was never asleep. In intervals of 10 years, it would devour and sometimes destroy like a steamroller, particularly the elements of the opposition in society. One morning, on 12th of September 1980, fascism made its appearance once again. I was only 19 and pregnant. I barely heard a knock on the door, and before I was able to open it, soldiers barged in, and I felt the cold barrels of their rifles on the back of my head. I could hardly move while the barrel of another gun was pressing against my breast. I was being subjected to severe insults, and the house was at the same time being ransacked and searched to the hilt. Since I did not speak Turkish and was illiterate then, I was not able to ask what was happening. I constantly heard the name of my husband in their conversations, and from this, all I could gather was that they were looking for him. In the house, I was experiencing a feeling of angry apprehension beyond just fear. There was no protection, nowhere to get refuge from. and no one to trust. I could not stay in the house either. I shouldn't remain in the house, I thought. There was one thing I should do, and that was to leave the house as soon as possible. I soon left Diyarbakir and started moving from village to village. Every village I went to first got into a panic when they saw me. Even if they tried to hide it, I could feel it. Whatever authentic traditions they had in that village, I was involved in the same. I still remember hanging tobacco leaves on a string to dry, just like weathered tobacco laborers who had been doing it for years, and that this had caused blisters on my fingers. I was now a fugitive. Moreover, I did not know from whom and why I was escaping. Everyone who said I am Kurdish and the existence of the Kurdish people in this country should be acknowledged and was undertaking a democratic struggle to that end was regarded as a criminal by the system. I, on the other hand, was not even able to say that. I could not say it as I did not speak Turkish, and also, and to put it more frankly, I did not know who I was. I was a Kurd who spoke Kurdish, cried in Kurdish, laughed and sang lullabies in Kurdish, and a Kurd who did not belong to herself, a woman. I was an individual who did not even carry her own responsibility yet. Who am I? What are the rights associated with being Kurdish? What is the meaning of a people, nation, oppressor, oppressed, fascism, capitalism? What does socialism and capitalism mean? These were just a few of the questions I had no answers for. But despite this, I was being hounded like a criminal and I was running away stupidly. In fact, even if there hadn't been any military coups, that's how democracy would have played out in my country, a democracy of its own kind, detached from universal values. Turks and Kurds, even if they formed the state together, this state, whose name was the Republic of Turkey in 1923, could not be allowed to be Kurdish, and its original identity could not be Kurdish. Therefore, although it was formed with the shedding of Kurdish blood, but without the Kurds being involved in its establishment, that's the way the Republic had to go on. In fact, Kurds did not only live in Turkey. They were shared out between Iraq, Syria and Iran, and in each of these geographical areas they were considered non-existent through similar methods, and an effort was made to destroy them. In fact, in Iran, people can still find themselves at the gallows every time they demand freedom. In Syria, meanwhile, let alone the Kurdish identity, Kurds do not even have Syrian citizenship. It is a potential crime to be Kurdish in Turkey. Defending the rights of Kurds is considered treason, because this country, first and foremost, the motherland of Turks, and only next the motherland of those who consider themselves Turkish. This is what the state decreed in its constitutional laws, and I was therefore a candidate for treason. This was not too wrong an approach, as I was a traveller on a rather long road without return, a road which started with my escape on the 12th of September 1980 and which would lead to treason. In this long journey, my prison cell was merely an intermediate stopover which was too small for my hopes. As I was questioning the system once again from top to bottom, with the resilience my dreams gave me, I was taken aback with the sound of the cell door being opened, or maybe I just woke up. Two policemen who were a few times bigger than I was first tied my hands behind me tightly and then blindfolded me. "Move it, you're going to be interrogated," they said. I was in the interrogation room. They were kicking and beating me up and also asking me to undress. I was resisting and thinking about the meaninglessness of trying to cover myself up in my cell earlier. The more I resisted, the more I was losing consciousness with the blows I was receiving from policemen. When I came to, I was completely naked and was full of bruises, while high-pressure water was being directed at me. They were saying, speak up, we're telling you. For years we've been organizing people at prison gates during hunger strikes and many other places. Wherever we look, we see you. It was you who organized women yesterday, right? What people, what rights, what Kurds are you people talking about? In this country, everybody is Turkish. You will eventually grasp this. Both those inside prison and you should all be burned. Just look at Saddam and be thankful to us. What could I say? Hadn't Saddam killed thousands of Kurds in Halabja, Iraq, only a few months ago on the 18th of March with chemical agents in a single attack? But now I wasn't the mere woman I was on the morning of the 12th of September 1980. I knew, I understood and grasped what was going on. The questions that racked my brain at the time did not go unanswered anymore. Moreover, I knew, I saw and I experienced that there wasn't a major difference between Saddam and those who were running Turkey in a fashion similar to Saddam. When I was thrown back to myself like an empty sack, in my heart I had the excitement of meeting with my dreams and hopes once more. I was beside myself with excitement. I had no crime to talk of or to confess. But I was still considered a criminal, because I was now saying that I was Kurdish. I knew what human rights meant, I knew about my people's and nations' right to self-determination, and knew about many of the isms, and at least I was questioning the existing establishment. The more I started to understand and get to know myself, the more I saw that I went to the root of the inequality between people. I believed I had finally solved the unquestioned mystery of all inequalities, national, caste-based, sexual, religious inequalities, and all other inequalities about life. The cell door opened once more with great noise. It was them again. The repulsive grin on their face told me what was going to happen and what they were going to do. Despite that, they tied my hands and blindfolded me tightly. My physical resistance was being broken by the impact of their fists, and I felt as if my feet and hands were ripped off my body. I was stark naked. I was ready for the electric shock that would be induced by wires attached to the most sensitive parts of my body to wrench me off my dreams and hopes even momentarily. I was going back and forth between these states and hanging on ever more tightly to my dreams. I was being subjected to strange and funny questions. For instance, they'd say, "Tell us then, who was this coded message directed at?" What they alluded to as the coded message was nothing more than a note that had arrived from Diyarbakir prison. It said in the note, "Leyla, I washed my overcoat. The lining bled off its color to the fabric. Take it to the dry cleaners. If they can clean the stain, you can bring the coat back to me. If not, you needn't bring it." It really was an overcoat that was washed and got stained. How could anyone tell that this innocent request would turn into an evidence of crime and treason? But the police claimed that the words in this note was a coded message, and I was being repeatedly tortured because of that. In fact, I was used to torture, to being insulted and denigrated and being subjected to everything in the realm of cruelty. And whether these were inflicted on me or not did not matter at all, because in everything that was done against peoples, my people, women or men, white or black, whatever their language, faith, gender, skin, color, race or creed may be, whatever that was done against mankind in the name of evil, I always saw myself in that pain. Instead of getting angry or feeling a grudge or vengeance, I felt a greater need for change and transformation. I set the bar of struggle higher with greater perseverance and determination. I have never lost my conviction that these dreams, which were not utopian, would one day come true. What I lived through were not the sort of tortures that were never experienced by others. Millions of people went through the same mill, and even worse. Moreover, in the war that is going on in my country, we were losing tens of Turks, Kurds, soldiers and guerrillas every day. Women are widowed and children are orphaned, and worst of all are the mothers whose hearts are like water boiling over a fire. The intelligentsia, writers, journalists and politicians are being put on trial, arrested, and are killed in murders perpetrated by the state and through street executions. What harm could be given to anyone by people getting an education in their mother tongue, studying their culture and history, determining their future by their free will, developing their national identity by preserving their different identities, and for wanting to have a say in the administration while they are living together? Are there any other people in the world with a population of nearly 40 million who live without any national or international status? Well, the Kurdish people are unfortunately in the 25th year of a war, of a struggle they have been undertaking, and they have fought only and only for an honorable life. Despite all wishes and efforts, the road and channels to peace are not being opened. Hopes that are too big for my prison cell are this time in a different time frame and a different place. Date, 27th of February 1998. Place, Ankara Central Prison. Yet another stopover on the road to treason. My legal status during this period was prisoner, but my political status was one of political hostage. This time I was sentenced to 15 years of severe imprisonment, sentenced to being a formal PKK member and a registered terrorist, a traitor, terrorist, or a separatist. In fact, Kurds have been given these epithets throughout history. To ask for the recognition of the Kurdish people's democratic rights are in themselves considered treason. It is considered as terrorism. That is how the state constitution and laws decree. I regret to say that these denigrating epithets that every Kurd is confronted with every time he or she seeks his or her rights has become and can become the official discourse of the world. Years have passed. Many things have changed in the world, and the Cold War ended. Walls came down and blocks crumbled. Many peoples got their freedom, borders have been lifted. Concepts like human rights, democracy and peace became the issues not only of countries with such problems, but the issues, focal point and passion of the entire humanity. Civilization, technology and everything that makes life easier have entered homes and offices with miraculous little screens. The world has become too small for mankind, and mankind has started looking for life on other planets. And we, a handful of people coming together for human rights, have gathered here from all around the world. We don't know each other at all. We started off from different countries and met on this platform. Our identities, beliefs, tastes and pains are different. So are our smiles, joys and color. But there is one thing on which we do not think differently at all. A very unique thing that turns tens, hundreds, thousands and even millions of hearts into a single heart: freedom, human rights and democracy. And we have hopes that will never be exhausted. Hopes about peace, freedom, democracy and the young people who will shoulder them. Hopes about tomorrow. Dear friends, now I want to take you to another location, flowing from prison cells to city squares to a different time and place. Date 21st of March 2009. Place Diyarbakır Nevroz Square. Cries mixed with wailings coming from prison cells are being turned into a peace cry of millions and reverberating from city squares. Lives ranging from those of fugitives to those fragmented and frayed lives looking for an identity are looking for the life they've been yearning for in Nevroz, the spring holiday of Kurds. The explosion of social awareness despite bans and prohibitions gives me excitement. The demand of the Kurdish people for freedom is transforming both the Turkish people and the people in Turkey as a whole with a positive interaction. The same resolve, courage and organized stance are also forcing a change in the laws, because now in Turkey, both the people are forcing the laws and the laws are forcing the people. From this vicious circle, only the peoples can come out as winners, and they must. Esteemed participants, I would like to thank each and every one of you for your courtesy and patience in listening to me. I want to let you know that I see that the dark clouds that settle on me are illuminated, sometimes with a candlelight and sometimes with the bright sunlight. In fact, I believe wholeheartedly that no darkness about life is permanent. Just as when the hour comes, the night is over and the sun rises and scatters away the darkness. With these feelings and thoughts, I extend my regards to you.